I am going to beat you into the living death.
Good evening and welcome to another edition of the Living Death Show on the Walkout Network. I am your host, at least your host pro tempore, Ben Duffy of Sherdog.com. You may see Anthony Walker's window there. He's present but has a screaming infant/toddler in his arms at the moment, so I am running the show for at least the first couple of minutes. I'm very pleased to announce a return guest, although it's been a couple of years. It is senior editor at Fansided, Amy Kaplan. Amy, how are you doing?
I'm great. I'm so excited. Thanks for having me back. I guess I didn't flub it too much the first time.
Or you did not flub it.
No,
you didn't flub it. You killed it last time. Just we're really terrible at organizing things and remembering to get people on the show. It's good to have you back. With me, as always, is my colleague at Sherdog.com, associate editor Jay Petrie, the man with the stats, the facts, the numbers, and all that good stuff. I imagine you have a stat of the week for us, Jay.
I have a couple thousand stats of the week. I have all the stats of the week. But first, I'd like to mention, Amy, I think, if I remember correctly, your appearance on the show, wasn't it your first appearance on any sort of fight show? I think I remember you saying that.
And, yeah, I was really nervous.
And all things considered, I think things went smoothly. I mean, yeah, you're in the show now. How do I know? I was on it this past week, Jab Cross Hook on Fansided and Bet-Sided. And we have another special guest. Outstanding. So I guess without further dudes, the stat of the week is obviously about the main event of UFC 275. I mean, how could it not be? Because at this time, Jiri Prochazka, what do you say about him? You know, what can you say about his achievements to burst through into the UFC so that he has how many fights in a row has he won?
3 million.
Anybody?
In the UFC or just in general?
Oh, 3 in a row. He's won 3 in a row in the UFC.
Yeah, that I knew. I don't know about it before that.
13 in a row total?
13 in a row total. 13 consecutive wins, with all but one of them taking place in a major organization, because he fought in the Ryzen 2016 tournament. And then he had a stopover fight to knock out somebody just for, keep himself kind of fresh and warmed up. But to have that kind of I think it's 10 knockout or 10 finishes in a row in a major organization, because Ryzen, of course, is a major. 10 finishes in a row in a major. You don't do that. I don't care who you are. I don't care who you're fighting. Jiri wasn't fighting the worst of the worst. CB Dalloway isn't the super elite guy, but he's a UFC fighter. Fabio Maldonado, as our lovely EFN commentator called it. King Mo. So yeah, 13th stat of the week, because that's Jiri Prochazka, light heavyweight champion of the UFC's win streak. And it could end at any moment, or it could go on for 13 more.
Gosh, I'm
seriously. Outstanding. Well, we'll stay on that topic. Speaking of the main event of UFC 275, the title fight between Jiri Prochazka, your new champ, and Glover Teixeira, your sadly lamented former champ, did that almost 5-round classic, did it pass John Jones versus Alexander Gustafsson 1, Forrest Griffin versus Stephen Bonner 1, Shogun Rua versus Dan Henderson, to become the greatest light heavyweight fight of all time? I'll throw it to you, Amy. Where does it fall on your list?
I mean, I don't think it's the greatest. I think when I saw that list of, the greatest, it doesn't come close to me. But I think for me, it's Forrest and Bonner for sure. But I think that's because when we're watching fights, we have emotional connections to them as well. And so for me, that was the first UFC fight I ever saw. And so that's going to have an emotional connection. So nothing is ever going to be better than that for me. And I think that there might be fans that are watching the fight on Saturday, and that's going to be their emotional connection. They're going to have an emotional connection, and that's going to be their best fight. I think that we really underestimate, it's not just about the fight, it's about the story, it's about, like I said, the emotional connection, what's going on in that viewer's life. I think it's impossible to say which is the best, because I think all three of us are going to have different ones.
And that's kind of the fun of it, though. I mean, to look at this fight, it's and there's an argument for yes for most of, if not all of them. The list, of course, that we brought up to talk about these, besides Yuri and Glover, Griffin Bonner at the tough finale, and Jones of Gustafson, which was one that was a very highly discussed one right afterwards, and of course Shogun versus Dan Henderson. They're just ridiculous, everything there was in the kitchen sink, and everybody gets knocked out, and I got knocked out watching it, that kind of fight. And yeah, I mean, I too have that special connection to Griffin Bonner. It wasn't the first fight but that I had seen, but I understand what Amy's saying completely, because I have an affinity for Tank Abbott, seeing him at UFC 6 back when I was smaller than I am today, and having that formative memory, so to speak, of seeing Tank Abbott splatter poor John Matua and go, wow, that's the one that sticks into my head. And he goes, that was, one of the best knockouts ever, even though it's not even close. Like, obviously there's better knockouts. I mean, there was a better knockout tonight or that night, on Saturday. But yeah, I mean, in terms of light heavyweight title fights, I think that Jiri-Glover passes Jones Gustafson. Not because because the storylines for Jones Gus were spectacular too, but there were so many times in this 275 headliner that I said, well, this fight's over, and it's over, and he's got it. Oh, he got him. Oh man, that's it. He's mounted him. He's dropping bombs. That cut is like is Marvin Eastman level. We're done here. We're all wrapped up, and then it wasn't. And then the tide turned, and then suddenly this is happening. So for the pure drama and as I'm writing it out for the Short Dog play-by-play, losing my mind trying to figure out how to put what I'm seeing into words so that other people can digest exactly the madness that was on screen, I think I give it to that. But Ben, what say you? What are you feeling on how this stacks up in light heavyweight land?
It's definitely not my greatest light heavyweight fight of all time. I mean, it's probably up there for UFC ones, but there were a couple of real classics in Pride as well.
I thought about adding those to the list too, the Vandys and the Rampages.
I like Amy's point that there's a personal emotional relationship between you and your favorite moments here. Because by the time Griffin and Bonner came around in the Tough One finale, I'd been watching the sport for a year or two, but all of a sudden I was seeing this great fight on basic cable I was probably in a Wings and Boobs somewhere. Like, I forget whether it was actually a Hooters or like a TGI Fridays or whatever, and just seeing the place go apeshit around me and realizing my thing is about to become everybody's thing. Like, it felt like a moment of change, and I've been conflicted about it ever since, because I'm naturally at heart just a hipster and a snob. I mean, you see me wearing the T-shirt of a local band you've never heard of, and wearing the hat of a regional promotion you've probably never seen. Like, it's tough for me to let go when my special thing becomes the big thing. But there was a feeling that, like, an entire sea change in the sport. It's the greatest light heavyweight title fight I've ever seen. By the end of the fourth round, I was ready to say this was the best one since Jones Gustafson won. When we got the finish that we did the way we did, I was like, this isn't recency bias. This was just an absolutely unbelievable fight. I don't know where I'd put it on my list of all-time favorite light heavyweight fights. It's probably in the top 5. It's my favorite UFC light heavyweight title fight of all time. All right, I see that Ant has joined us.
Yeah, it's this is a dangerous situation. She is falling asleep, but the discussion's so good. I wanted to jump in and weigh in on this, man, because I'm liking the direction we're headed here, because we're talking about the quality of the fight, or we're talking about the quality of the moment.
Yes.
And when we're talking about the quality of the fight, this is probably number one for me, because this was a sampler platter of everything mixed martial arts has to offer. We had the best of the best in striking. We had the best of the best in clinch fighting. We had the best of the best in groundwork for both guys. Like, both guys had their moments in all 3 realms of combat. And there were so many wild momentum swings per round. Like, I mean, round 4 could be round of the year. Like, that was an amazing round. But every round has that same sort of case where one guy looked like he was going to finish and then the other guy came back at the end. And we had that over and over again. The moment itself probably wasn't that big when we think about the ones that we can compare it to. So obviously Griffin Bonnar holds a special place in our hearts because of what it means to the sport and the direction the UFC took afterward, and that essentially being the boom that grew the fandom to what it is now. But then we look at just Jones Gus 1, and Jones was built as such an invincible figure, and the ads for that fight were so subpar, and they just were like, oh, they're about the same height and they're the same reach, so pay us some money and anything can happen. And to our surprise, anything did happen, but it was so much of our surprise that led to the greatness that it holds up to. Shogun and Hendo is another fight which belongs on our list just for fights and not necessarily title fights, of course, because that was the first 5-rounder main event that went all the distance. I think what Munoz and Lieben was the first one, and that ended pretty quickly. So that had a huge moment because it was like, oh my God, there are 2 extra rounds of this chaos, and we got those 2 extra rounds, and they were fantastic. But here's one fight that we leave out of the discussion. I will say is a better title fight than Jones Gus one, but is not the better fight of what we saw Saturday. DC Gus. That's one that is always left off these lists. That's the one that had more realms of combat, had more wild momentum swings, but Jiri and Glover takes the cake for me in that regard. But man, oh God, I wish I watched this one live.
Yeah, I mean, the Jones situation had the 300 moment, the even a God King can bleed sort of situation where suddenly Jones was wrecking shop and hitting spinning elbows for fun and leaving Lyoto Machida on a pile of his own drool, and then this Swede guy who's got pretty heavy hands and is tall and long is putting him through the ringer. So yeah, it's any way you slice it, we got something special this past weekend, I think.
I totally agree.
Yeah, I mean that was an amazing fight. That was one of the times, like, as you guys who watch the show regularly know, typically lately I don't get to watch the fights live. I catch up on it afterward, usually with no sound and while I'm holding a baby. But this is one where I'm watching it like, oh my God, I wish I was watching this live, because I know the discussion in the Twitter world during the actual fight had to been off the hook, and so many different thoughts that I had as it was going on, like Yuri's body work was fantastic. Like, how did Glover not go down from that liver shot in was it the 3rd or the 4th? Yep. Like, how did Yuri stay active after getting elbowed into oblivion from Mount? Like, it's just so many crazy things that should have ended the fight but didn't, and they just kept giving us more until the last 30 seconds. So hats off to both gentlemen. That was an amazing fight. Of course, that wasn't the only title fight that we witnessed Saturday. We also saw Valentina Shevchenko and Taila Santos, a fight that went to the brink, a lot more challenge than a lot of people had coming in. So forgive me for mixing up our order just a little bit, but I want to get into this fight. And do we think Valentina Shevchenko, who won that fight by decision, did she look more vulnerable at 125 pounds? Does this open the door for a blueprint against her?
Yes, absolutely. I think a lot of her mystique kind of just went down and out, and I think that win did worse for her than the loss did for Santos, if that makes sense. I hope I said that.
Oh, definitely. Oh, no, absolutely.
It's a
huge stock moment for Taila Santos.
Yeah, I completely agree there. I think a lot of it will depend on Shevchenko's next couple of performances, because if she jumps right back on the horse and goes back to thrashing people, and while she's probably not going to say much about it, if we find out later that there was some sort of illness or injury like late in camp that affected her preparation, something like that, this will just go down. Well, it'll go down like Jones Gus 1, where Jones on his worst night at the office had just enough to beat the best person the division could throw at him at the time. Like, if we may see Shevchenko defend her title 4 more times before she really falls off, and we'll look back on this as, okay, whatever she had going on, Taila Santos' best night wasn't quite enough to get her over the hump.
Do you agree with the judge's decision with that fight?
In the moment, I did. I mean, I was scoring the rounds while having my octopus arms on and doing 8 different things. You got the senior editor vibe. You know what it's like on fight night. You doing, but
Yeah.
But in hindsight, I could see giving the second round to Shevchenko. Santos had more top time, but Shevchenko probably threatened more with actual submission attempts and had Taila Santos in more peril on the ground. And if I give that round to Shevchenko, then I'm scoring it for Shevchenko. In the moment, I scored it for Santos.
Yeah, because you and I scored it for Santos, and Mike Sloan scored it for Shevchenko.
Yeah, I gave the first 3 rounds to Shevchenko, the last 2 to Santos. But in hindsight, I could see myself giving that second round to Shevchenko if I had undivided attention and that's all I was doing. And in that case, it would have been the fight for her.
Yeah. I gave that second round to Shevchenko. Just much more effective striking. Like the top control that Santos showed didn't do the damage that Shevchenko's striking did. So that's what kind of swayed it. But it was one of those things that was so close. It's like robbery discussions. Sorry, not having it again.
Get those out of here.
Yeah, I mean, to the point we've exhausted that topic to the point where I'm so sick of even having this conversation with every close fight. Oh, it's a robbery. It's a robbery. Like, no, it was not. It was a very close fight. But I'm also thinking, like, are we looking at her vulnerability in the moment, or are we looking at what actually took place in the fight? Because I'm reminded of Jones Gus again. I'm reminded of Israel Adesanya against Jan Blachowicz again. Did we see somebody do something to the champion that nobody else would really be capable of doing? Or did we see the champion, on the same coin, did we see the champion just vulnerable temporarily? And, will we see Shevchenko next time and just plug this hole that was left wide open? I think back to Jones versus Vitor Belfort. Like, I remember in one of my first articles that I wrote, and this is for Bleacher Report, well before it was what it is today. I mentioned something about Jones's vulnerability from top position and how he straightens his arm out and how he's probably going to get arm barred or triangled at some point in the near future. Vitor Belfort was so close to pulling that off, but have we ever seen anybody come close to doing that again? Yeah. That's a hole that got plugged. So this is very well could be a case Santos found that hole that's temporarily open. And next time we see Shevchenko, she's not going to be doing this. Like, she's not going to leave this door open. And we see the way the momentum changed once her coaches put it in her mind, like, hey, you're probably losing this fight. Like, Santos did not have nearly the level of ground success. And in fact, found herself toward the end of the fight, looking up at the lights herself. So I mean, I'm thinking this is just a temporary hiccup. Her next title defense will tell the tale.
I think so too. I think she's going to see that. Her coach is going to just grind that into her, and I don't think we'll see that again. I'd be really surprised.
Then I guess my question to all of you, because I echo a lot of your sentiments, so I'll need to repeat the same things you guys are saying, is that will we see the UFC go, wow, this was really close, and there was the clash of heads that I believe materially affected the outcome of the fight? I have not rewatched the fight. I scored it first 3 for Santos, and I had her winning the fight, therefore. And Shevchenko started doing different things in the 4th and 5th rounds, notably on the feet, notably with her left hand. And why? Because the eye of Santos was about a bead because of the clash of heads that led to massive swelling and damage that was, she still could fight, she still could see, but you could see her depth perception was impacted. You could see her vulnerability. She was eating shots that she defended against before. Now, obviously, we could argue fatigue and other factors, or that Shevchenko is that good, but I think that, the clash of heads was enough to turn the course of the fight. So all of that said, is the UFC going to go, nobody has done this to Shevchenko, let's do this again? Or will they try and jam down the winner of, I don't know, Manon Fiorot and who is Fiorot fighting? Maybe Chookagian?
Chookagian.
Or do they try and rush somebody like the winner of Barbara? I don't like that either. There's no good options at 125. So do they do it again, guys?
I hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't usually want immediate rematches or like them, but I would like to see this one again, especially because, like you said, there's not like another opponent that's exciting. It's not like there's a lot of people waiting. If there was a ton of other people, then maybe let's give somebody else a shot, but I think she deserves a rematch.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm normally on here like railing against immediate title fight rematches, but the two exceptions are where there was any sort of controversy in the judge's decision or refereeing that determined the outcome of the fight, or if there was a freak injury or foul that affected the outcome of the fight. And there was a bit of both here.
Yeah.
So I think it's worth it. And then as Amy points out, it almost helps the division because you have several very promising up and comers that are 25 and younger. You've got, Aaron Blanchfield, Casey O'Neill coming up, but they're not ready. And we're in a situation where one of them could get thrust into the title picture way too early. If this pushes everything back by 6 to 12 months for them to remake this, considering that obviously Santos is probably going to have like 90 days of no contact with that broken orbital. If this pushes everything back 6 to 12 months, hell, I hate myself for saying this, but have them coach a season of tough against each other or something.
Ooh.
Just like make us wait even longer. If it pushes everything back a year, that actually helps the division. Manon Fiorot is over 30. She's out of she's the outlier among those up and comers, but she's so green as an MMA fighter that even she would do better with another fight or two under her belt before she's really ready for the title picture. So yeah, please remake this.
I think that. Oh, there we go.
Oh yeah. I'm sorry, Jay. Yeah, I'm picking up what you guys are putting down. Why not? Like, this is one of the rare times where an immediate title fight, a title rematch makes total sense. The challenger was putting in work before that accidental head clash. I mean, we saw the results instantly.
Yeah.
Like, she took that head clash, the eyes started swelling, and next thing you know, Shevchenko was piecing her up within seconds of each other. These things happen.
Yes.
You'd have to be a complete moron to think that they're unrelated. So I think Santos deserves another crack at it. And from a fan perspective, like, they've been having a tough time trying to sell anyone who is going to give Shevchenko a challenge. Whether or not she came on the losing end is a different story. We know that Santos put in work and gave her a challenge. So who's the most logical person that you can sell as a potential challenge? Perhaps the person that gave her a challenge already. And this keeps us further and further away from Nunes and Shevchenko 3 discussions, which I despise. So I'm all for it.
That might be the best possible thing that came from this whole not debacle, but this whole mess, is that we can put Nunes and Shevchenko's trilogy fight aside, because I don't want to see it. It's such a strange situation, because I mean, if I went into this fight going, well, Taila Santos is going to be beaten in every facet of the game because Shevchenko has proved it on this level and this stage, and she's outmuscled the musclers, she's out-wrestled the wrestlers, she's outstriked the strikers. She's done all these things, and for not only for Shevchenko to make the mistakes she did, like that first round where she went for that sort of outside trip quarter, whatever you want to call it, thing. It didn't really succeed, so you can't really call it anything. And fell to her back, and Santos climbed on top. I went, what is happening here? We have a ball game. And then for Santos to take her down, a lot of inside trips, body lock work, great stuff that I never thought would work. This is suddenly an interesting contender. It's an interesting storyline to pose, to say, she was the pound for pound queen, and this woman came minutes away from beating her, and the media, the reviled media, scored it in favor of whatever. The UFC can easily make one of those black and white videos and put out AK Lee on the front and cross out the eyes, all of those things, and you can easily sell this fight. In a way, I never would have thought that you could sell a rematch between these two coming into this fight. Never.
No.
This is about the most unlikely outcome, aside from Jiri Prochazka submitting Glover Teixeira in the 5th round.
They couldn't even really sell the first fight, to be honest.
Yeah.
They really talked about it at all.
No.
But if they rematch this thing in December, is Shevchenko a minus 300 favorite? I'm thinking at best.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think like maybe 250 at most. Yeah. Ooh.
I think casuals will be betting, though. I think a lot of people will just see the name and just and not even realize it's a rematch and not have seen the first one. I think
see the win.
Yeah, I think she'll still be a huge favorite.
Yeah. But it was something else. I guess we want to continue that conversation. Will the UFC, however, at the end of the main event, there was, madness and mayhem and all kinds of things. Is the best course of action for the UFC to run back Jiri versus Glover?
No.
Amy is conflicted.
I mean, okay, so I agree with you guys saying no, but in my heart,
Yeah.
I want Glover to have, because I know
Right.
he only has so many fights left. But it doesn't, you're right, it doesn't make sense. It really doesn't.
It kind of does, though, in a weird cosmic sense, because the alternatives are Jan Blachowicz, who's coming off of he's on a 1-fight win streak, TKO injury in a fight. Wasn't he losing? It was like they were like 2 rounds in, so it could have been like tied up or something, but it wasn't. Jan Blachowicz victorious dramatically. It was Alexander Rakic blows his knee out. So that's not a compelling sell. And that's the one the UFC seems to make. Or Magomed Ankalaev, Anthony Smith. Now, Magomed Ankalaev gets through Anthony Smith. He's deserved it. But in terms of sellability, you can't do much worse right now these days.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I prefer the UFC go in a different direction than the immediate rematch.
I'm okay with it.
And I almost feel like I know Glover gave the inspirational post-fight speech, and I'm okay if he hung it up with this one. I'm totally okay with him walking off into the sunset, because quite honestly, this is a cliff that we know he's going to run into. If it wasn't Saturday night, he will run into it very soon. At his age, with the amount of miles that he has on him, with the young guns in this division, guys like Ankalaev coming up, at 42, do you really want to go through that nonsense? You've already reached the pinnacle. So I'm okay with him hanging it up and the UFC moving on, especially if Ankalaev gets the win. Sell Jiri, just sell him, because that is a hell of a personality. That's the guy they need to be focusing their marketing on, obviously, in my opinion.
I have one question that isn't on our thing. It just kind of popped into my head. Glover said he wanted coming to this fight, he wanted to defend this title against Jiri and defend it one more time, so that we can still assume, and he said in his post-fight interview, he wants to continue fighting. So still keeping on that train, we can assume that Glover wants one more fight. If he doesn't get that rematch, what do you do with him? Where do we go? Do we have him fight Shogun for a weird, uncomfortable double Brazilian goodbye fight? I mean, how do you because the fear is, if you put Glover against I don't know, a Paul Craig, you knock off a contender if he wins, and then you get nothing for it because he's retiring. So how do you handle a Glover next fight?
You really are selling that rematch for me.
Yeah, right.
Because I think he should get whoever he wants after what he's done for the, promotion. I think he should get to pick. I think if he wants to fight again, he should get the rematch. And I think if he doesn't get the rematch, I think you're right. I think he should just retire. Because you're right. Like, what else? What else is there?
Yeah, Johnny Walker, Ryan Spann.
Yeah.
That's not that's not a send-off fight. That's super dangerous and contender killing.
And you think about the Shogun fight that you proposed, there's a clear difference between the end of Glover's career and the end of Shogun's career. And that's the problem you run into. Like, the mismatches will be horrible to the guys that are in his age bracket or with his level of experience.
Exactly.
So hang it up, if not for the immediate title fight, in my opinion. My humble
tough coach
opinion.
Ooh. like the trend that we're going here.
I mean, because I can never get on board with Ankalaev train. I mean, he's a Fight Club Akhmat guy. So to those that are familiar, or he might not be affiliated with him right now, but considering the level of affiliation he had with Fight Club Akhmat, which of course is run by Ramazan Kadyrov, I can't go Ankalaev. So I would take the share rematch over an Ankalaev fight, and even knowing what Ankalaev's done to get there. Anyway, Ant, take it back.
All right, gotcha. All right, so we're going to move on to quick hits. We're going to put 30 seconds on the clock, and we're going to ask everyone on the panel to answer a question. Amy, as our guest of honor, you'll get the first question. Has Jake Matthews now become the fighter people hoped he would all those years ago?
Okay, so I'm gonna sound so stupid here, but he's never really been on my radar. I never expected anything from him, and I don't mean that in a bad way.
No, it's okay.
I just mean like what was it that we were supposed to have expected from him? He's great. He's a great fighter. I think he's always been a great fighter. Good job. Keep it up. He's gonna clip that and roast me on Twitter. I just know it.
Jake Matthews gets the coveted gold star from Amy Kaplan.
That was a very good answer. And you know what,
like
Amy, I'm with you on that. Like, I didn't have him pegged as like the top of the top prospect, so I kind of wasn't expecting much. And maybe that's because of the era that he entered the UFC, when we started getting more and more events and more new fighters, and it just became this endless sea of people with tattoos that were fighting each other. He just got lost in my mental shuffle. So
yeah, there's so many fighters. Like, he's a name I recognize for sure. He's not a guy that I'm like, ugh, or I guess I just like, cool, yay.
Yeah. And again, he always fought guys that we always kind of had our eye on. Like, he always was somewhere hovering around there. But maybe this is his break out the pack moment. We will see in the near future. I mean, that was kind of what the question was all about. So it all makes sense. All right. Speaking of breaking out the pack, Ben, I'm gonna throw this one your direction. Can Jack Della Maddalena, I know I messed that up, break out from the pack at 170 pounds?
Can Jack Nelson Mandela Maddalena break out of the pack at 170? He already has. He has two meaningless losses to open his career back when he was like literally 18 years old back in Australia. Since then, he's won 12 straight and he's finished like 10 or 11 of them. If he didn't have those two losses, we'd be talking about him in the same triumvirate of undefeated world beaters at welterweight that we have, like, Sean Brady, Shavkat Rakhmonov, and what's his bucket?
Yes.
Like, no, I mean, there's no reason he shouldn't be taking on a top 10 level fighter in his next fight.
I was hoping that
Hamzat Chimaev, thank you.
I was hoping to leave the name off the bracket.
Yeah, I was hoping you would just leave it at like, what's his bucket?
What's
and
his
then
bucket?
and just done.
Well, I have to say it for SEO purposes, right? Hamzat Chimaev, Hamzat Chimaev, Hamzat Chimaev.
So that Conor McGregor guy's in the news again.
Yeah.
Did you say Ronda Rousey or Brock Lesnar? All right.
Well, that might do the opposite.
Jake Paul. All right. Jay, I got one for you. Brendan Allen, he squeaked by Jacob Malkoun. Is that an indication that Allen has peaked, or that Malkoun is pretty good?
I had more feelings about this fight than most other prelims, because I had Brendan Allen in such high regard, and to see him kind of taken down and sort of smothered and not able to do any work of any note, he didn't really have anything locked down, and was threatened but not really in danger by Malkoun. It really was a stock down moment and a win for me, because I don't have much for Jacob Malkoun. He's strong. He's a layer prayer. So this is kind of a moment for both guys.
All right. Okay, so Jay, for the purposes of me not sounding like a crazy person,
I would be
would you
happy to.
please ask me a question, sir?
So a lot of fun fights, a lot of knockouts, a lot of wild, unusual drama. So this is more of an open-ended question for you, Ant. Whose overall performance, bell to bell, could be a finish, could be a decision or whatever, impressed you the most at UFC 275?
All right, so a lot of different answers I could give to this. I want to give it to Weili Zhang, but we're going to talk about her in just a second, and what she did against Joanna. So we'll get into that. But I'm going to highlight one of the prelim fighters, Silviana Gomez Juarez, because it was a textbook showing of how you handle over aggression. Just perfect pinpoint striking every time she got charged. And I don't know if it was more Liang's fault for fighting like that, but either way, the victor gets the spoil. So I'll give her the title for that. All right, so let's keep things pushing here. We got to give some love to, was it the Coco main event? I don't know if that's a thing now.
The featured fight of the night.
The Coco main event. It sounds like hot chocolate or something. Coco. But anyway,
isn't Ice-T's wife named Coco?
I hope so.
Actually, yeah. It's like a beverage family of some sort.
I'm happy.
Yeah.
So is there a little Ovaltine running around? Anyways, carry on. Carry on.
MC
if they got a teenage kid
right.
that's kind of like corpulent, that would be the perfect name. Hey, what's up, Ovaltine?
Oh man, we're really screwed up. All right, so after the knockout loss to Weili Zhang, Joanna Jedrzejczyk left the gloves in the octagon. Before we get into praising Weili, let's show some love to Joanna. How will you remember her legacy if it isn't over. It isn't actually over.
I'll jump in and say that I do believe it's over. I don't believe many fighters when they say it's over. I believed Khabib Nurmagomedov when he said it was over. I believe Joanna Jedrzejczyk. And there are two main reasons. One, if a 35-year-old woman says, I want to have a babies, I gives me a little more credence that she's ready to take a significant amount of time off of her day job. If that day job might involve getting kicked and punched. Number two, I'm not like anybody who is a championship level fighter in a major promotion is obviously hyper competitive. But even by that standard, she is somebody whose identity and sense of self was so obviously intertwined with being the best in the world, with being, I mean, pardon my French, like the baddest bitch on the planet. Like that was her. She nicknamed herself Joanna Champion. Like Joanna Contender doesn't roll off the tongue exactly the same. Like I don't think her heart's going to be in it unless she can beat the brakes off of everybody. Like that is Joanna for better or for worse. So she doesn't strike me as someone who is going to stick around for like 6 more fights, kind of hanging around the fringes of the top 10. Like if she's not in the title picture, fighting for the title or defending it, I don't think she's going to want to put in all the rest of the work and heartache that it takes. So I believe that she's out, and I'll remember her as one of the greatest fighters of all time.
Absolutely. Like, how fast will her UFC Hall of Fame induction be? Like,
next year.
Yeah. Period.
It's gotta be that, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think if this fight were to happen, say like February, we're talking about a summer induction.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be a fast turnaround for her name to be permanently enshrined. Amy, I'm gonna throw one at you here related. Where does Joanna rank as far as all-time female fighters in your opinion?
I mean, top 5 for sure. She has kind of like a cyborg quality to her in the sense that she's like this absolutely scary woman, and then she's also the sweetest, nicest person you've ever met. So that's kind of how I'll remember her. But I think definitely like top 5 above Ronda for me. Sorry.
Yeah. Oh, totally with you on that. She's eclipsed Ronda quite some time ago, in my opinion. Just not as far as like Ronda's pioneer status is unquestioned, and there probably will never be another female to eclipse her in that sense. But yeah, this is Joanna. It's for performance wise, Joanna clearly. Jay, where do you ranking here?
Gosh, my top 5, my Mount Rushmore +1 is always going to be kind of fuzzy. But if she's not in the top 5, then she did something wrong to not get put there. You know, like you got the Nunez's and you got the cyborgs. I don't have Ronda, so what are you gonna do? Fight me in real life, bro, or whatever. You got Megumi Fujii, and Joanna's got to be there just for what she's done, how long she's done it. I mean, she had a title run that was like, I don't know, probably a little over 2 years, or wait, 2015. Okay, so yeah, a good 2 or 3 year run, but it felt like a long time, and it was the kind of run where I looked and went, wow, no one's going to beat her, because you'd see the women that could challenge her, and then she'd turn it on. You know, like she'd lose the first 2 rounds to Claudia Gadelha, and then shellac her in the last 3 and be like, oh, okay, she's got that other gear. So to see her in that regard, and to see her as a pioneer, work with me here. I know 115 has been around for a lot longer than this, but to see her as the pioneer for the UFC's women's strawweight division is an important thing for everybody to have. I firmly expected that somehow, I actually predicted that Weili Zhang would win the fight, but I also predicted that Joanna would somehow get past this, fight Carla again, win the title back, and we'd continue the round robin of champions like we started it. But as for her actual retirement, see in 2 years. I can see like an Alexis Davis, a Nina Nunez type of starting a family layoff and then going, wow, this itch to keep fighting is way too unbearable. I'm Uriah Faber. I'm coming back again and again. You know, we'll see her again, and we'll see her in the UFC.
Yeah,
not in BK.
There too, because I think she was, even though she didn't announce it, she was retired for the last 2 years in her brain. I think. Sure. And she didn't want to say it. I think probably for whatever reason. And so now the next step is now she's going to say it. Now let's see if she lives up to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's about 2 years too.
I don't
Maybe have a baby and then come back.
exactly. I don't believe in retirements. I don't believe Khabib's done forever either. So
I
I don't believe.
Yeah, I definitely believe Khabib. I'm thinking that this retirement won't stick, but when it unsticks, I don't think she'll land in the UFC. I think she'll find herself perhaps in Bellator, where she has a clearer path to a title.
There's no division over there for her. They have
She could move up
125.
to 125.
If
Okay,
she-
but
if
I mean,
she
she
could-
can
if she
move
moved
up.
to
Like,
125,
yeah, she
sure,
can move
but-
up. Like, cause she fought for the title 125 in the UFC. So
She had to fight Shevchenko of all people.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh! Talk about the worst debut in that division.
it's like, or she would be the perfect person for a BKFC, like for something like that, if she were down for it.
I would watch her fight
I
Paige
don't
Van
like
Zandt 12
to
times.
condone that idea, but ooh.
Yeah, and especially for someone who's a lifelong striker, the grappling elements are a lot tougher on the body to train. If you get older and you just kind of want to just do some things to get it out of your system, a striking only thing makes a lot more sense for someone like Joanna, and BKFC provides enough quality of competition to where you think she'd do pretty well in that if she decided she felt like it.
I think Ben just started bleeding internally right now.
It hurts me. Can I just take a moment to say how awesome Joanna's personality, her persona was? It was so strange because on the one hand she had just the badass looking at you with dead eyes and just saying I'm gonna murder you, but then also giving people pasta necklaces and stale cookies and stuff. It was she was the bully, but the kindergarten bully. It was just so weird and so kind of charming and completely unique to her. In a sport that has a lot of excellence but very few memorable characters, she's a pioneer for that, for sure. I mean, you debate whether we call her a pioneer or not. We talked about Megumi Fuji. She never held a title in a major promotion because there was never a promotion that even had a division for her.
Yep.
So at the very least, she is the first really great champion of the first real strawweight division the sport ever had.
And she had the nickname of Joanna Violence when champion wore off.
Mhm.
And it was and you're like, yeah, that's a good nickname.
Accurate.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was perfect. So man, what a great run she's had. And if this is the end, we really appreciate all the entertainment she's provided us.
It's not.
But it ain't. We know this.
She's like
Yeah,
34, 35.
It's like when
It's
Jay-Z
not the end.
retired. You're dropping another album, man. Knock it off. All right, so we gotta actually pay some respect to Weili Zhang, former champion, who authored, a potential KO of the year candidate right here. Let's talk about what she did right on Saturday. Mixing up the realm of the fight. We know this is an obvious thing to do, but man, she pulled it off just expertly. Let's speak on that. Let's speak on what she did right from a technical aspect in that cage. That's it, ass point.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
In fact, let's call the episode ass point. How
I'm
about
done.
that?
You got
All
it.
right.
I'll throw something out. She has always been a unique, overwhelming physical force in that division. Or her just physical strength and explosion are like nobody else. We think of Jessica Andrade as the ultimate Hulk in that division. Zhang is just as strong and bigger. She's actually a good-sized strawweight. You knew that if she ever put her mind to it and turned her training towards it, she would be able to apply that to become a dominant offensive wrestler. We finally saw that come out here. And I think that's why this was a terrible fight for Jan Jedrzejczyk to take after basically 2 years away, because Zhang had 2 more fights since then, 2 more camps. Even though she's 0-2 in those fights, she was very competitive in the second of them, and she's had that time to add extra wrinkles to her game. But if that's another weapon that she has in her arsenal going forward, look out, rest of this division. Because that's only going to make her nasty, just overhand right and her other power shots on the feet even easier to land when people are worried about the level change.
That is exactly why I was so impressed by her performance. Now, I went, I'm not going to say I called this because I said that she was going to implement her wrestling and be able to get Joanna down and keep her there for longer stretches of time. I did not call a knockout. I did not call a spinning strike. I called it to here. And then all of this happened. So let's be clear. But the way she was able to trip Joanna down and work her down and not just rely totally on power, there was technique in it to be able to use her strength, if that makes any sense at all, that she was technically muscling her. Well, I guess you can be a technical brawler, so you can be a technical like thrower, I suppose. Just to be able to toss Joanna like that was a wrinkle that I had hoped that she worked on based on her performance against Rose Namajunas in the takedown, the get up game, the whole degree of that. There was the one sequence when when Weili landed the first takedown and Joanna was getting up on the cage. She was on one knee, and that right hand of Weili hit her about 15 times on the way up. In a way, I'm like, this fight could be over right here. To see her be able to chain the powerful grappling that she is developing with the strength that she already has, buckle up. She'll be champion again. Unless Rose has the belt. No, wait. Rose is going to have to win 3 more, win the belt again, lose it. So, yeah, we'll figure it out.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Carla, but there's no way. If she fights Carla next, there's no. It's going to be Weili.
Yeah, I see Carla like going for that takedown, getting stuffed, and getting beaten to oblivion. Like that. Yeah. That sounds like a bad night at the office. From a technical point, yes, I did it again.
That's it.
From a technical aspect, one of the things that I was most impressed with from Weili wasn't the grappling, although that was fantastic. It was the use of the side kick. Like, and that's a technique that just doesn't happen in MMA a whole lot. And she was throwing it repeatedly and landing. Like, she landed like 3 of them in a row as Joanna tried to close distance. And then when Joanna picked up on the side kick and she sidestepped as the kick is coming out, that led to the spinning back fist. Like, that was absolutely amazing. It was frightening. Like, I've been the victim of this in sparring once or twice. Like, someone throws that roundhouse and you step out,
keep going.
Yeah, and they keep going. And as you rush in to capitalize, boom, you get smacked upside the head with the spinning back fist. But to see that off of a side kick, just the body mechanics that takes is fantastic. Like, that was gorgeous. And the fact that she was using that kick so frequently to start lets me know that this was very intentional. That was part of the plan to land in that spinning attack. So hats off to Weili. I'd be very surprised if she didn't have a belt wrapped around her waist real soon. All right, now it's time to move on to perhaps the greatest title segment in all of media history. I'm not surprised, Mr. Falcons. Will we share something that surprised us or ironically did not since we last met? So, Amy, as once again our guest of honor, what's your I'm not surprised, Mr. Falcons moment this week?
From the fights or just
combat
anything,
world in general? Anything.
Should have thought about this ahead of time. Oh my goodness.
We can come back to you.
Yeah.
No, I think I know.
Okay.
And I don't like it, but I think it's the 28-second tap. I was surprised. I was surprised that number one, that he would tap, and number two, that it would be so close to the end of the fight. I don't know if he was just like so tired that he didn't realize how long was left, or I don't know, but that was my I was shocked. When I saw the way that fight was going, I thought for sure it was going to go to decision. I was just shocked by that. Literally shocked.
Yeah. That was a surprising moment, but man, how tight that choke had to been, and the setup where to not have the hooks in, to just, it almost looked like a Darce from the way it started, and then or a bulldog, and it just turned into just pure suffocation.
It was that and chest pressure, or just however he pulled it off was just. No, that's not how I saw this fight going down.
Yeah, absolutely. Shocking, surprising.
Actually, then.
Yeah, for real. Yeah, that wasn't supposed to happen like that, but it wasn't. But I loved it.
And it turned the outcome of the fight on its head, because if he had hung on, even if he'd lost the round, he was up 3-1 on 2 of the judges' scorecards. He at least gets away with a split decision.
Yes, indeed.
That's how that fight went from this is the greatest light heavyweight title fight since to this is the greatest light heavyweight title fight ever in that 4 minutes 32 seconds. Wow. And I agree that with Amy, I was shocked because you're talking about a 42-year-old guy with thousands of hours on the mat, one of the most experienced and just flat out one of the best grapplers in mixed martial arts, and a generally very smart, savvy guy. He either just the angle was such that he felt that he was going out, or the angle was such that it absolutely hurt like shit, in which case, by all means, dude, like live to fight another day. But yeah, I was as shocked as she was. Like,
Yeah.
wow.
Mm-hmm. Well, ball stays in your court, Ben. Can you share with us your I'm not surprised Mr. Falcons moment this week?
I mean, I'll just say that I did not expect to come out of Saturday night saying that UFC 275 is my card of the year, because while all UFC pay-per-views are stacked at the top now, they give themselves the insurance of 2 title fights on every card whenever they can. Like south of the top 3 fights, it was not one of their stronger pay-per-view offerings of the year, but it was absolutely the event of the year to date. And that was after losing probably its best fight on paper.
In
Like
Vittori
if you asked me smack you right through that screen. I mean, if you asked me last week, and you probably did ask me last week, I probably picked Jiri Prochazka versus Manel Kape as my fight of the night. We didn't even get it, and this card was still an absolute banger.
Yeah,
just can never tell. But this one was worth the $75 that I will expense.
Yeah, I think Dana just got a boner when you said that. It's like, yeah, this is worth it. See, you got to watch the fights.
That's gross, Ant.
I mean, it's probably it. I've said a lot worse, and I probably will before the show.
No, there's just something very specific about that.
Oh, Dana's boner. Yeah, that's
It takes a visual.
I
assume it's bright red.
Oh God.
You know what? I don't think we ever actually would see it, because like Twitter user 0.5347 is probably there. So we'll just see like the egg of a Twitter avatar just bouncing up and down.
Oh,
Told you I could say something worse. All right. All right, Jay, what's your I'm not surprised Mr. Falcons moment this week?
I'm going to say something worse than what you just said. I'm going to say something that's more gross, that's more ridiculous.
Oh, I know what you're going to say.
Yes, you do. Because we're getting the hell out of the UFC right now. We're leaving the United States right now. We're going to London, the jolly old London, because there's a thing that's happening and we can't stop it. And it came out of nowhere phrasing. And it's just an absolute, what is happening? What are we doing here moment where the entire community for a second went, it was the record scratch, break squeal moment. What is happening here? And by what are we talking about is that BKFC 27 in London on August 20th in the Oval Arena in Wembley will be treated to a main event attraction at 175 pounds between Michael Venom Page of Bellator, former title challenger, and Platinum Mike Perry, former UFC ne'er-do-well and what have you. That this is a BKFC fight. This is a bare knuckle fight that MVP is allowed to take from Bellator. Bellator is giving him a one-off. Page wanted to box, and they said, do this, play this thing with Mike Perry over there in London. You're not going to get hurt. You know what's the worst that could happen? And it's nonsense. It's ridiculous. My lead for the story, because I wrote that the news was that it appears that Michael Page is taking his recent loss at Bellator over the title a little harder than anybody expected, because he's taking a BKFC fight. This is a guy who excels with kicks and knees, and he's taking a BK fight against Mike Perry, whose only good thing is this punch. And even though he won't land, and it's all ridiculous, I am not surprised, Mr. Falcons, that even I was surprised, Mr. Falcons, about this news breaking from BKFC directly.
I'm not surprised, Mr. Falcons, that I had my topic stolen from you, Jay. But you know what? But that's perfect, because I just want to talk about this more, because I think it's lovely. I think it's awesome. I can't wait. I cannot wait. Like, Mike Perry is going to get pieced up to oblivion. Like, keep in mind, MVP, granted, he wasn't fighting the top notch of boxers, but this guy actually has pro boxing wins and was doing all the same showboating. He did all the same things he does in Bellator against taxi drivers. He was doing that to pro boxers. Mike Perry is going to look like an absolute clown, more so than he already does. Like, he is getting annihilated, and I'm here for it.
Mike Perry has a pro boxing fight, though, and he lost by knockout.
Exactly.
Just throwing it out there. I think there's an 8-inch reach advantage for for Michael Venom Page in this fight. I believe it's what it is, 8 inches of fist reach.
Oh, okay. Well, glad you clarified that.
It says a lot that Bellator is okay with this. They understand that he is, considering that he lives in London, he's more likely to get injured in the limo ride to the venue than by Mike Perry. Like a bit of breaking news if we want to talk about this. Within the last hour, Valentina Shevchenko revealed that she did have a foot injury like a week out from UFC 275. That, you know, she said the UFC PI, they were working on it, their physical therapist, just trying to get her as good to go as possible. But, you know, obviously that probably affected her. It probably affected her weight cut. So, you know, that's just one more thing to throw into the pot. One more thing that makes it more likely we're going to see this rematched right away.
I share Amy's physical reaction to that news because, yeah, okay, Tito, come on. Why say anything? Just let it be.
Yeah.
I was hoping this information would come out later, like this soon after the fight. Like, not.
Yeah.
It doesn't sit well with me, but I mean, hey, we'll get to see the rematch. So,
yeah.
We'll profit at the end. Well, I guess I'll throw out a new topic for.
Please.
I'm not surprised, but we won't really have to be on this one long. But I'm not surprised. Holly Holm inducted into the Boxing Hall of Fame over the weekend.
Oh gosh.
I believe also inducted alongside Shane Mosley, Floyd Mayweather, and James Toney. Like, you talk about three great names of this past generation of boxing. A lot of my childhood and adolescent memories watching those guys fight. Yeah. Like, that is a hell of a class, and quite frankly, Holly Holm, one of the all-time great combat athletes. You know, with her accomplishments in boxing and MMA. So hats off to Holly Holm, a very well-deserved accomplishment there.
Did y'all see the photos of her accepting the award?
That's exactly what I was about to say.
She belongs in the Guns Hall of Fame.
She doesn't normally look like that. Maybe with the lighting.
No, she looked like fucking Brock Lesnar. Her arms are huge.
Easy.
It's terrifying.
But wow.
She looked like she did when I met her. Like, Holly Holm is jacked.
Yeah, no, she's but she looks
shockingly
particularly.
Oh, she okay.
Jacked.
Yeah, because like when the time I interviewed her and stuff, like, she was hulking over me. Like, I thought I was about to get my ass whooped. I was very careful about the questions I asked.
Compared with the lighting, because the dress was like one of those halter styles,
you
know, like it really accentuated her shoulders and her arms, and then the lighting was like really kind of at least in the one I saw, and so the shadows of the arms were kind of more. Oh my goodness.
All right, well, let's keep things pushing because we have PFL coming up this week. And I know we're probably not going to stay on this one long. We never really talk about PFL a whole lot, but let's go ahead and show this event a little bit of love here. Name a fight on here that you're looking forward to.
Oh, I want to see Clay Collard and whoever it is that he's fighting, Alex.
Clay Collard versus question mark. Yes, sign me up.
Alex, right? Alex
Martinez, yeah.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I just God, Clay is so much fun to watch. Like, he's like one of those guys that I feel like doesn't get enough love. Mm-hmm. He's really great. Yeah. I'm looking, and I know that's the main event. That's the easy one to say. Sorry,
but it's Clay Collard. Like, he is a must-watch fighter. Every time he fights, like, I'm trying to tune in. Like, that guy is entertainment.
Yeah.
Fellas, what else are we looking toward here?
PFL not doing Josh Silveira any favors.
Oh,
I mean, obviously, PFL does have a legit roster. If he's gonna win the light heavyweight tournament, he's gonna have to beat some decent guys, but they're giving to Martin Hamlet, who is not an easy out at all. Like, I actually favor Hamlet in that one pretty comfortably. And it just looks like, the Crown Prince of ATT might take his first real L.
Yeah, Hamlet is strong. He's the kind of guy to ragdoll.
I mean, he's got those Holly Holm arms going.
Yeah. It's weird, this PFL matchmaking, because it's not weird. Like, we'll talk about featherweight in a week or two, and we'll have more words to say about that. But I can't help but notice that for some reason, Corey Hendricks is out of the tournament. He won his fight by second round finish, so he's got 5 points, but he's not fighting for whatever reason. And all the winners at light heavyweight are fighting people that lost or hadn't fought yet. So
is five probably enough to clinch him a spot?
Maybe if Martha Hamlet gets a decision and then the rest hang on, it's tough, but it's a very odd. I can't ever feel good about it when I look at this and I go, okay, Shoeface is fighting Bruce Soto, who got finished in the first round. Omari Akhmedov is fighting Teddy Oxtuolis, who was from Ryzen. He has the crazy, silly haircut that you're like, that's not a person. That's a fake thing. Also lost his last fight. Rob Wilkinson's fighting Victor Pasta, finished before. Josh Silveira hasn't won. He hasn't fought in PFL. So it's a deck stacking maneuver. So Amy is correct when Clay Carlo and Alex Martinez is one of the most compelling fights for a lot of reasons, because both fighters won their last fight. There's only one other fight like that coming into this event in terms of the PFL, and that's House Manfio and Olivier Palmercier. That's the only fight besides the main event where both fighters won their last PFL fight.
Yeah.
And we have 11 fights on it, 10 fights on it, and then Nasty Nate Jerniman. Where'd that come from? Sign me up for that. You guys remember Nasty Nate? He was from LFA for a while.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
He's a little too reckless for his own good, and he sometimes gets the submission, and then sometimes falls off and gets knocked out because it's really funny. Yeah. Nasty Nate's in here somehow. I don't know why. I don't know where he came from. He's just like hey, we're not running the tournament for you. You don't get a chance to run. He's fighting a lightweight. Why don't you let him get points if he beats Bruno Miranda? But it's a non-tournament lightweight fight on a lightweight tournament event. Please, somebody else take this. I don't want to keep going.
Well, I'll just highlight a fight that's the exact opposite of the weird like winner versus loser thing that's going on through most of this card. It's a loser versus loser for two guys who dropped their last PFL fights, Jeremy Stephens and Miles Price. And this sort of feels like the perfect red carpet for Jeremy Stephens to decapitate somebody.
That's
I think
exactly
that is
right.
the point of this. And yes, I'm here for it. So
You couldn't be more right, Ant. That is exactly the setup here.
yeah, like that seems to be bound to happen. And we'll talk about it when and if it does. So Amy, it looked like you
I was gonna say I'm gonna be there cage side, so if that happens, I'll bring the head back for you guys.
Very nice. Very nice. Even if like say you want to put the head like on a mantle or something, just show us a blood-soaked like notes from cage side. Yeah, that'd be good. That'll suffice.
Yeah, we're good with
Thank you. All right. We need more blood on this show. All right. So the
it's called
UFC,
a living death show after all.
that is true. That we have a very morbid name. All right. So obviously the UFC never takes a break. And while we are just talking about 275 potentially being an event of the year, instead of having a week to talk about this and process it and to dive in deeper and to get us more hyped about the winners, we're back at Fight Night action. The Apex Center will host Calvin Kattar.
It's in Austin.
Oh, it's in Austin. That's right. They're going to Austin. Okay. Calvin Kattar, Josh Emmett in the main event. I'm very much looking forward to the potential of this fight. Quickly, who wins and how?
I can't go first.
Okay, I gotta be honest. I am not thinking about anything but the Cowboy fight, because in my head I picture a fight of the year, barn burner. This is my dream. Barn burner. Everyone covered in blood, just swinging, and then they both put their gloves down together and walk off with their hands raised together. Like that's what I want. So that's all I'm just like manifesting that. So that's all I'm thinking about. I haven't even thought about the main event.
I'm not mad at that at all, because that is a compelling fight for all the right reasons and all the wrong reasons. So Amy, like you'll be surprised at my compelling fight for this card. And Jay, we discussed this a couple of weeks ago on the show. It was just us two. Phil Hawes and Deron Winn this is everything wrong with the sport, and it feels so right.
Yes.
I can't wait to see the disparity in sizes of these guys, the like short arms just swinging, and it's going to be wonderful. Like, yes, please. Yes. Thank you so much. Phil Hawes
could hold his hand out on Deron Winn's face like a little kid on a playground. And of the two fighters, Deron Winn will be the heavier on fight night, and he probably will be the one that will miss weight, right?
I was going to say he might be the heavier one the day before fight night.
Yeah.
If the past performance is any indication,
he'll come in light heavyweight for this one. I'm pretty sure.
He has before, dude.
Yeah, it's happened.
Like the UFC keeps on giving him catch weights and 195 or whatever. Kattar finished. This is my MMA math. Kattar finished Stevens with elbows. Stevens finished Emmett with elbows. Give me Calvin Kattar dropping bows on Josh Emmett here. But in terms of I'm surprised that I'm excited about this fight. It's not Tim Means, Kevin Holland, because of course I'm excited for that fight. It's Damir Ismagulov and Guram Kutaladze, because it's two guys trying to break out for the pack at lightweight, because that division is a nightmare. They both have very impressive records against some pretty decent opponents, and yet neither of them, obviously, Guram is coming back from his win over Mateus Gamrot, who's now fighting in a main event. So the winner will be primed. Probably Ismagulov, he's on what? He's on like a 15 fight win streak or something like that, and he's won 4 fights in the UFC. So I'm looking forward to, if he beats Guram, he'll be on a 5-fight win streak in the UFC. He'll probably be like 6 wins away from a title shot. So I, for one, I'm looking forward to that.
He has no one to blame for himself.
Yes.
But himself, since he blew weight so bad in his last fight that it was canceled, and the UFC isn't going to fast track anyone to a title shot that they don't trust to make the weight. So that's a bit of a him problem. But yeah, I mean, on the eyeball test, on what he's doing and to whom, he looks like a top 5 lightweight.
Yes, I agree.
He doesn't look that far off from Islam Makhachev, really. This card has, I mean, between Eddie Wineland, Court McGee, Tim Means, and Donald Cerrone, it has 4 of the most grizzled guys in the entire promotion. Like 4 guys, if they could do a special one-off promotion with some brand of beef jerky for this one, it would be perfect. Because you've got 4 of the most beef jerky-like fighters. I may be the only one who's really looking forward to Court McGee versus Jeremiah Wells. I have a place in my heart for Court McGee. Like having spent 15 years on and off in Utah, I saw this guy coming up like before Tough. Saw him as kind of a standout prospect. Met him a few times. I am sure that he got the Crusher nickname from his handshake. He's just a vigorous dude. But when I saw this matchup and I kind of did tape study and started getting ready to preview it, I was like, this is an extremely cruel matchup for the UFC to make. I'm just not sure to whom, and I won't know until about 90 seconds into the fight. And that suspense and, the fact that Court McGee is still performing at this level at age 37 with all the miles that he's put on himself in and out of the cage, it's just a feel-good thing until it isn't anymore.
Yeah. This is an interesting, before I even jump into some of the other matchups on this, just very brief on the main event. I got Calvin winning this by decision. I think he's going to outpoint Emmett and avoid the big shot. And I think his footwork's going to be too good to really get caught into the takedown trap. So that's how I see that fight playing out. Now, as far as some of the other matchups on this, like I expect Joaquin Buckley to get just ragdolled, by a Russian grappler. Like that just looks like the matchup to stifle him. Julian Marquez, he's the guy who fumbled the bag with Miley Cyrus, right?
There is.
Mm-hmm.
That's the guy? Yeah, okay. Yeah. Obama's going to knock him out, I think.
Brawlic Obama?
Yeah.
Like his Fight Finder photo looks like Barack Obama's head on Alistair Overeem's body.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's hilarious.
Go look at this.
It's
like if Obama like left political science and went to the weight room, he'd be this dude.
Like if he followed Michelle's workout plan, he'd probably look like Gregory Rodriguez.
Yeah, man. So Jeremiah Wells, Court McGee, like it gives me the opportunity to like tweet stupid things at Matt Wells, so that's cool. But other than like there are a lot of like Stamen Weiland sounds like a great fight. There are a lot of action potential fights on here, or just interesting names. This almost feels wrong to have a card with these names right after a big pay-per-view when they have to do a throwaway card. You don't throw these matchups together. Like this seems like something that should have happened like 3 weeks ago when we were we were
hoping for something good,
just hoping for something to keep us entertained. This is the card that we should have gotten, but what do I know? So.
Honorary Brazilian Adrian Yanez, Brazilian by way of Houston. Adrian Yanez is going to be shown out for like all the Brazilians. That when Tony Kelly opened his mouth a couple weeks ago, you could tell they just all went to see who he was fighting next, and all of a sudden Yanez is their favorite fighter, and I'm like, hop on board, he's mine too.
All right. Well, I think that'll do it for this edition of the Living Death Show. Big thanks to Amy for joining us this week, and we promise it won't be 2 years in between. We ask you to come back. So that we definitely messed up on that one. We should have been hit you up, and it's not like we haven't been in contact with each other during this whole time. Like, it's not unusual for us to have some level of conversation via DM. So anyway, yeah, sorry about that. We'll invite you back sooner.
Thanks for having me. I had fun.
Oh yeah, definitely. This was a great time. So we'll have to do it again soon. And you can find her work on Fansided. Be sure to check that out for fight night coverage and everything leading up to the events. And of course, Ben and Jay, you can find them on SureDog.com. Tons of fight coverage directly for every event from both of them. Jay, I'm sure will be on play-by-play yet again. So look forward to that. And pre and post fight, just deep dives will be held by Mr. Duffy. So of course, you know what you got to do. Like, subscribe, share, tell a friend to tell a friend, tell that friend to tell 10 more friends. Stay beautiful, stay positive, and stay sexy. I'll see you when I see you. Peace.